Hello, my name is May and I'm a second year marketing management student. Currently this year minoring in viral video production. And this is my first vlog and it is covering memes which we kind of studied in week 1. So the first question I have is, I wondered what kind of things people would think about when they first think of the word memes. And for me, if you'd asked me about a week ago, I probably would have said 9 cats, piano playing cats, grumpy cats, lol cats, all sorts of cats basically, just kind of flying around Tumblr, YouTube, Facebook, kind of social media platforms. But I found out in the lecture that there are a lot more to memes than just cats. So we learned that the actual definition of a meme is an idea that can be transferred from one individual to another and subjected to mutation, crossover and adaptation. These ideas spread by imitation, which can take place through word of mouth, or as Richard Dawkins says, or via the web, as Richard Dawkins said.
Blog to blog.
So it's strange to think actually that Richard Dawkins was the person who first coined the word memes, because he's kind of a zoologist and memes are kind of these weird cat things, and I was a bit confused as to how it happened. But when you kind of think about what actually memes are, you can see that memes are pretty much a cultural equivalent of genes. So both memes and genes can evolve, they can replicate and they can be passed on. And that's why he kind of came up with it, because the terms are quite similar. So a lot of the similarities that kind of exist between memes and genes were mentioned in this week's reading, which was Into the Meme Pool by James Gleick. And I found this reading actually really interesting because I had no idea what memes were before the lecture, and I now know an awful lot about them. So another kind of idea that was brought up in the reading that I found really interesting was the fact that religion is, well, it can be seen as a meme. It fits the technical kind of definition of memes in the fact that it's an idea that has been passed on from person to person for a very long period, and it's evolved kind of into, for example with Christianity, there's different denominations that have come about, for example the Catholics and the Protestants and the Anglicans, and then there's also the kind of art that comes along with religion that's developed, and then there's also music that's kind of been created throughout centuries that is based on religion. So there's a lot of different things that have evolved and developed and spread, which is pretty much what memes are. The reading also mentioned the similarities between memes and viruses in that they have such great spreading power. There's a quote from a psychologist called Nicholas Humphrey which says, "When you plant a fertile meme in my mind, you literally parasitize my brain, turning it into a vehicle for the meme's propagation in just the way that a virus may parasitize the genetic mechanism of a host cell." This idea really resonated with me because I know from my own experience how difficult it is to get a meme out of your mind once it's kind of taken over. So for example, after the lecture last week, I was watching the 9 Cats song on YouTube, and for literally the whole day after that I could not stop singing it. And it was really getting on my flatmate's nerves. I also mentioned on my Tumblr that the other day my flatmate sent me a Snapchat of himself, and his facial expression immediately reminded me of this meme, which kind of, it was weird because it's kind of in my subconscious that I'm familiar with all these memes, and they kind of quickly come to the front of my mind and pop up at random times when I'm not expecting them to. So yeah, it's scary to think that you can't really get rid of them, they're just stuck there in your brain. I also found it interesting that Gleick mentioned the kind of terminology crossover between biological and cultural language in the context of disease. For example, a tune being catchy, an emotion infectious, or a habit contagious. It's also kind of scary that memes are spreading so much faster than they ever have before in the past. For example, back in the olden days, people used to send letters, and I remember when I was about 6 years old kind of getting these chain letters and reading them and being really scared, because they always said you have to write them out to loads of people and send them on, and I never did because my mum said I wasn't allowed to. I always thought I was going to die or something because I didn't pass on my chain letters. But nowadays we've got the internet, which has just completely revolutionised kind of ideas spreading. For example, there's image boards like Reddit and 9gag, and then that kind of developed onto things like Tumblr and Facebook, and nowadays you can't go on any social media sites without seeing memes everywhere. One example of a meme that I actually find really funny is Sweet Brown, who was a woman who was caught in a fire and she got bronchitis, but she did an interview with a news channel and someone auto-tuned it and put it on YouTube, and since then it's got over 85 million views, which is absolutely crazy because it's not even like a funny thing to begin with, but they've turned it into this kind of viral sensation and it's hilarious.
Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody got
Since then there've been a lot of image macros based on this kind of video, such as this one, and this one that I made. For many people it's just kind of a bit of frivolous fun, like a little laugh watching this video on YouTube, but you kind of have to think about the people who are actually involved in it and how they must feel. I read on Wikipedia, I know, a brilliant source, but anyway, that Sweet Brown sued Apple for selling the song I Got Bronchitis on iTunes for a profit, because it used catchphrases that were in her video, such as "Ain't nobody got time for that." But yeah, it must be kind of hard for her seeing other people making loads of money from her interview, which kind of legally belongs to her. So I know it's a difficult situation, really. Before the lecture last week I just thought of memes as basically a bit of fun, like I said, just photos of cats with funny catchphrases onto them. But on reflection it seems like they have a lot more power than I originally realised, especially the kind of comparison to a virus, which is a little bit worrying. And like I said, from my own experience, it's really hard to get rid of them once they're in your brain. I found it quite interesting though that Richard Dawkins called memes mutations of the mind. And kind of in terms of evolution, it's often the mutations that make species stronger or kind of more adapted to their surroundings and kind of make them live longer in the end. So I don't know, maybe they'll have a really positive impact on the human species. I don't know, no one knows. But yeah, so that's all I have to say about memes, and I shall see you in 2 weeks' time. Bye!
Mutation in the mind.
Mutation in the mind. Mutation in the mind. Mutation in the mind. Mutation in the mind.